He wasn't speaking to a crowd. There were no grand speeches, no thunderous applause, just silence, a quill, and a blank page. In the quiet solitude of his study, Thomas Jefferson, the architect of liberty, confessed what history books never recorded. Away from the public eye, he poured his doubts, his private sorrows, and his deepest contradictions onto paper. These weren't declarations for a nation. They were whispers to himself. We see the monuments, we hear the famous quotes, but what about the man behind the myth? What if I told you that in these forgotten pages, a completely different Jefferson emerges, one far more complex and human than we ever imagined? Let's turn the page together and uncover the secrets he never meant for us to find. Thanks for watching, and if you're curious about the hidden stories of history, make sure to subscribe. It was June of 1776. The air in Philadelphia was thick, not just with summer heat, but with tension. Inside a small rented room, right on the corner of Market and 7th Street, a single man sat alone. A candle flickered on his table, its light dancing across his face. That man was Thomas Jefferson, and what he was about to do would change the course of history. The Continental Congress had given him a monumental task: draft the Declaration of Independence. Now, Jefferson wasn't your typical revolutionary figure. He wasn't a soldier charging into battle. He wasn't a booming orator who could command a crowd with his voice. Jefferson was quiet. He was a thinker, a listener, a man who deeply believed that words, chosen carefully, could build nations. For 17 days, he practically lived in that little room. He was surrounded by a fortress of papers, books, and the revolutionary ideas of his time. Outside, the city buzzed with life, the clatter of horse-drawn carts, the distant shouts of debate, the sounds of a nation on the brink of birth. But inside, there was only the quiet hum of intense concentration. It was in that profound silence that he dipped his pen in ink and began to write. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. These were simple words, but they carried a weight heavier than any cannon and a force stronger than any army. He would pause frequently, not because he was searching for the right ideas, but because he was searching for the perfect words to express them. He chose each one with the precision of a master craftsman, knowing these words were destined to outlive him, to echo through centuries. When he finally finished, there was no grand celebration, no triumphant roar. He simply picked up the pages and quietly walked them over to John Adams and Benjamin Franklin for their review. There were a few edits, a few minor changes here and there, but the soul of the document, its powerful, quiet spirit, remained untouched. A few weeks later, when the Declaration was read aloud to the public for the first time, the city erupted. People cheered, bells rang across Philadelphia, and the world began to shift on its axis. But Jefferson, he remained in the background, quiet as ever. He understood a deeper truth, that real, lasting power often doesn't come from the loudest voice in the room. It comes from the silence of creation. So, the next time you find yourself in a quiet moment, think about that candlelit room in 1776. Think about a man, alone with his thoughts, writing words that would ignite a revolution and inspire generations. Because sometimes, the most profound changes in history aren't shouted from the rooftops. They're written thoughtfully and purposefully in the quiet moments that make all the difference. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more. We'll see you in the next one.